Israeli soldiers have been secretly studying at a British military academy in central London throughout the Gaza genocide. Joining me now to discuss this are my colleagues John McAvoy and Alex Morris, who've been investigating this with me. While you're watching this video, if you want to leave a comment below, do you think Israeli soldiers should be allowed to train in the UK? Now guys, we've been investigating this for months amid great secrecy from both Labour and Conservative governments, but we finally had a breakthrough in this case. John, can you start by telling us, just the top lines of what we found in terms of the Israeli soldiers that have been studying?
So what we've found is at least 2 Israeli soldiers have been studying in Britain throughout the Gaza genocide. Now, one of them graduated only in July this year, even though the Ministry of Defence wouldn't give us, statistics for 2025. We located and found one of them graduated in July. The other one, both of them colonels, the other one went on after studying at the RCDS to lead an Israeli division in the invasion of Lebanon. So these are the kind of people that the RCDS is allowing to study, in central London.
And that guy has actually been promoted to a brigadier, hasn't he, in the Israeli army. And they were studying at the Royal College of Defence Studies in Belgravia. It's a very exclusive part of London, lots of embassies there. It's near to Buckingham Palace. It was founded in the 1920s as the Imperial Defence College. And what it does is, people might have heard of Sandhurst, that's for junior officers who've just joined the army. RCDS is for mid-ranking officers, so colonels, for instance, who want to rise to the top of the chain of command, and they do this year-long course there on strategic studies, which is a great way for them to climb the chain of command. Alex, can you tell us how you were able to actually identify some of those Israeli colonels studying at the college?
So we were actually quite shocked, Phil, that we were able to find these people on Twitter. Effectively what we did was we trawled through the Twitter account of the commandant, the guy that runs the RCDS. I must have looked through hundreds of photos on this Twitter, and they go on a lot of jollies, these guys. Each year they're going to Sri Lanka, they're going to the States, in some cases they're going to Israel and the West Bank. And it was only in the kind of end of year photos that we managed to identify 2 of these Israeli officers. One graduated just about 2 weeks ago, that was Colonel Elad Edri, and the other, bizarrely, we clocked from a Twitter photo from the MP Tandesi, who'd done the course in the 23-24 class, and he was pointing at a big board, which you'll see, and on that it says Colonel Norkin, Israeli Army. And then from looking at his pictures and then going through all the photos of that year, we saw a tiny picture of him in Geneva when they did a big class photo. But we used this facial recognition software. I had to go, basically screenshot hundreds of faces, go through hundreds of different pictures of people, of colonels from all over the world, to finally find these 2 characters.
Yeah, it's incredible the power of facial recognition software these days. Pretty scary, isn't it? And John, another open source thing that you did was just actually looking on LinkedIn, wasn't it, for one of the Israeli equivalents of the RCDS. Tell us about what you found on their page.
Yeah, so the Israeli equivalent of the RCDS is the Israel National Defence College, and on their LinkedIn they posted about 3 months ago that they'd sent their own delegation over to the RCDS for a kind of exchange there. And what's important to mention as well is, you mentioned at the start of this interview that, the kind of people that go to the RCDS, they want to become, commandants, they want to become high-ranking military officers. Now, there's 2 Israeli alumni from the RCDS who have gone on to high-ranking positions in the Israeli military. One went on to be the defense attaché in the US, and the other one, the kind of leader of the Israeli Southern Command. So these are the kind of people that are coming over to Britain, training here, getting expertise in strategic command, and then going back over to Israel and leading forces in what, could likely be war crimes.
And at Declassified, this is kind of our bread and butter, investigating UK military training of repressive foreign regimes. During the Saudi war in Yemen, we went through all the military courses here and clocked all the Saudi cadets that were here. And actually the Ministry of Defence tried to argue in court that it was because it was giving them training that they could be trusted to understand human rights and international law, and therefore it was legitimate to keep selling them weapons. It looks like in some of the court documents we've seen from the challenge to arms exports to Israel that they tried to run a similar argument here, although it was more, they were saying, well, they've had a lot of training in the US and that would be of a certain standard. So I think it's really significant that this training's been going on, and we should say that Mark Curtis, our co-director at Declassified, he was investigating this under the Conservative government, putting in freedom of information requests that just kept getting refused, and we were quite shocked because, after our experience of investigating the Saudi training, we expected a certain level of transparency, but in the case of Israel, it was just complete closed shop, and this was causing a bit of pressure to mount up in Parliament, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, I mean, there were several parliamentary questions that were tabled. It was also voiced, on the floor in the Commons.
In what way is the UK military involved in this? We've just heard that the IDF soldiers have been trained on UK soil, and these are is this the same IDF that has been engaged in atrocities, including the murder of UK aid workers in Gaza?
And the Armed Forces Minister recently confirmed in a response to a written question that the UK is training IDF personnel on UK-based training courses. Does the Foreign Secretary acknowledge that through bolstering Israel's military in this way, we are actively demonstrating our support for one side in this conflict? And does he therefore accept that this undermines our calls for a diplomatic solution and de-escalation?
And often, both Conservatives and the Labour government, they stonewalled ministers consistently over and over again. They said they wouldn't reveal information about what Israelis were studying in the UK. Eventually, about 3 months ago, they said fewer than 5 Israelis were studying in the UK, but they wouldn't give information about what rank they were, they wouldn't give information about where specifically they were studying. And it was only in response to a freedom of information request that we issued at Declassified, where we asked for the nationalities of all students at the Royal College of Defence Studies, where we eventually found out where they were, and from that Alex was able to start combing through the photos and finding who specifically was there. So it's kind of a multi-stage investigation, this.
Alex, was it just the 2 Israeli soldiers that you were able to identify, and do you think that more might be coming to the college when the next term starts in September?
Yeah, so we only identified 2, but from John's FOI, the government had said through the FOI and also through parliamentary questions that there were less than 5. So we only found 2 through the photos.
Could be more then.
Could be up 4, yeah. And across the 3 years could be up to 12. And we just didn't have the time to go through every single photo. If people were able to identify who was in the other pictures and go through their social medias, they might be able to find more. But the sense that we had was that these soldiers had been told to keep out the photos, given that they were just in 2 photos of
Israeli ones specifically.
The Israelis had been pretty much ordered, because John had found an article saying there were Israeli representatives at a certain event that they'd gone to at an arms factory in Europe, and there was no evidence of that Colonel Elad Edri in the photos at that place. And they're almost certainly going to be more going back in September. The new term starts in September. We've already been down there, Phil, to try and scope out the RCDS. Sadly, it looks like the term had already finished. But yes, I think Israelis will be there when the term starts again.
And John, you've been following the debates in Parliament, the statements by David Lammy and Keir Starmer rhetorically about what Israel's doing in Gaza are getting stronger and stronger. And yet things like this keep happening. We keep finding examples of their collaboration with the Israeli military, which it's in their power to stop that.
Yeah, of course. We've heard Lammy and Starmer use words like appalling, monstrous over recent weeks. And we've recently heard Keir Starmer say, he will conditionally recognise a Palestinian state unless Netanyahu commits to a meaningful ceasefire.
I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution.
I mean, this is a ridiculous statement. There are obvious things that Starmer could do right now to put pressure on the Israeli government. One of them, of course, is to stop welcoming Israeli soldiers to, defence academies in Britain. Other things obviously include stopping the spy flights over Gaza, withdrawing Britain from the F-35 programme insofar as it arms Israel, stopping arms exports to Israel. We know only about 8% were suspended in September 2024. We could commit to arresting Netanyahu if he comes onto British soil, the same for Yoav Gallant. These are concrete things that the UK government could be doing. Yet Keir Starmer is, his position, the strongest he's got is to say that he might conditionally recognise Palestine as a state in September. So, there's a massive gulf between what they're saying and what they're actually doing.
And I think at Declassified, that's what our work is really trying to expose, going behind the scenes and showing what they're actually doing in private. If you like the journalism that we're doing at Declassified, please share this video. You can subscribe to our channel, and we're also doing a campaign to get 3,000 members of the public making a regular monthly donation to Declassified to really support our work for the long term. So there are details of that in the link of this video below. Thanks for joining me to talk about this today, guys, and thanks for watching.